of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll. Trustee Blower,
Yes.
trustee McGurran,
Yes.
trustee Fisher.
Procedural action, meeting ground rules, gathering information to produce the 2024 appropriations budget. No final decision will be made at this meeting. Public access is for viewing only. Participation will not be allowed. It's up to the fiscal officer.
All right, I just want to lay the groundwork that, except for the current 22 beginning balances, all revenues and expenses for the current year are through October 31st of 2023, right, Lauren?
Yes.
Okay, ending balances for the current year are strictly projections and estimates. Please keep in mind when we're going over things tonight that the magic 8 ball could have been used, no, just kidding. We're still just, everything is guesstimated at this point. We have a good idea what we've appropriated. We don't think we're going to spend it all, but we have to pretend like we're going to. Capital expenditures are defined as property acquisition, new building construction, major facility renovations, public works projects, and heavy rolling equipment. Generally, heavy rolling equipment is defined as expensive integral equipment, which is typically not used daily. These expenditures can no longer be the automatic expense encumbered to the general fund. Doesn't mean that the general fund can't, but the thought is that each department with a levy outside, adopted outside the technical limitations should be able to purchase their own. So the exception to that would be the road department at this point, unless he has it in his budget, and then we go from there. Good example of that would be the new truck for this year was a 50-50. 50% came from general fund, 50% came from the road department. When we're adopting the budget resolution is approved, it's understood that the department heads have permission to purchase any and all items approved under the resolution. Any desired expenditures which were not approved under the adoption resolution must be handled through the fiscal officer's purchase order procedure. And then there are parameters in place that determine whether the administrator can approve them or if it has to be board approved. Their general overview of what we're going to be handling is the budget concerns. We need to be looking at our shrinking carryover balances for several of the departments. We need to be discussing potential increases from outside sources. Example of that is going to be once we know what the new valuations will be, the general fund and the 2 road millages that are all considered inside millage will be getting and be subject to some sort of increase. We don't know what those are going to be at this time. So we have to adopt the budget as it currently stands. Once we know what that's going to be and what that's going to look at, we can do an amended certificate for 2024, bringing those revenues in. It may not be necessary to bring those revenues in for general fund because we have a considerable carryover. And when I say considerable, I don't mean exorbitant, but we have enough to cover expenditures for a year or 2 should there be an economic crisis, and that's never a bad thing. So it may not be something that we want to do for general fund. We may just let the chips lay as they existed on our original certificate that we received from the county auditor in October. Very likely, we're going to need to bring in the revenue, additional revenue for the road department. And we'll talk about that a little more as we go. So do we have an, and then the other potential and outside increase is the new police levy. And again, as we were not, there was no certification. For the record, there was no certification that we thought would be received by today. We're hearing from the Board of Elections that there'll need to be an automatic recount. So we may not know till the 1st of December, which is really just next week. So with that, I think I can turn this over to Paul.
2024 revenue. The gasoline tax will bring in approximately 160,000, which is the same as last year. The road and bridge fund, I talked with Julie a while about this, and we bumped it up right at 50,000 because we've been using 300 for about, I don't know, 8 or 9 years, maybe longer. So we comfortable bumping that up. That's what we really bring in, closer to what we bring in. Motor vehicle license tax is 17,500. Road district tax fund is a total of 76,000. Motor vehicle permissive fund is a total of 112,000. Then we have one more time ARPA funds coming from Butler County, 274,000. That's another one-time thing. So basically, our annual budget income about 754,000 this year. Adding that 274 in, you get 1,027,000, almost 28,000. Questions on that income revenue?
I have none.
When the budget is, when the ARPA funds are no longer in the budget, are your expenditures adjusted for that fact?
Yeah, I mean, we're using every dime of that because you have to lose it. Yeah, you don't get it. You don't get it unless you actually send in, the project to cover that. There isn't money they give you unless you're going to use it on the contract.
So if that's not available, say in next year's budget, then that would be budgeted away.
Correct.
That revenue.
Is it likely that because of these ARPA funds, we've got a little ahead of what? Or are we just doing what we would have liked to do, but?
No, we actually, like last year's and this year, we paid more than we were ever going to be possible to do. So we took advantage of the money coming in and used it because a lot of townships found out the hard way. They didn't apply for the whole thing thinking they were going to get the rest of it and keep it. They didn't get any of it other than what they applied for. They didn't bother to tell us that until this year we figured it out.
Are the ARPA funds allowed to be used for like road repair or capital expenditures, or is there?
Only on the road contract, only for pay. If it's not on the contract that the county that we settle on, you don't pay it.
Okay.
We also chose to use the bulk of our ARPA funds on road projects.
Okay.
Where we could have used them, we just decided to throw 825,000, I think, at road projects coupled with what the county gave us. So we did over $1 million in road projects this year, which is a great thing for our
Yes,
constituents.
we have 6 miles worth of road. We would have never been able to do that. Moving on to expenditures. Start with the gasoline tax fund. So, the first item there is a $5,000. That's for our pavement management program. We pay an independent consultant every 3 years to come out and evaluate all our roads. He lives in Arizona, so he doesn't know anybody here. He doesn't care where anybody lives. He does them all. He films them, gives me all the information, then he puts it into my pavement management program for me and updates everything. And it's a program that basically just gives me legal backup as to why I'm paving this road and this road.
And that's what you use to decide what needs the most.
like I said, I kind of use it as a backup because if you just go by that, it'll tell you to do Nugent Road and somebody like Gunther Street, you know, these roads that get 5 cars a day on them. It doesn't, that's the only part I don't like about the program is it doesn't take into account the traffic count and what kind of traffic, trucks, all that stuff. So I use it together with just my own expertise of driving roads and deciding. So that is there, and then on the years that he doesn't come out, we leave a little money in there for tree removal in the right of way. So didn't leave any in there this year, but we haven't had that issue for a while. There's just normal trash and stuff. The next large on there is sending vehicles out for repair. We have 15,000. That is just the best guess, hit or miss. We might not send anything out, and we might send that dump truck out again and blow that out of the water. So it went back, it went back a couple of weeks ago.
I think for Russ's benefit, I sit with all the department heads and we kind of look at our expenditures to date and we look at historical.
That's going to be my question.
I could see it bubbling up, so I thought I'd help you.
Okay. That's how you arrive at that. I got you.
And the next few are just utilities and typical. The ones that have zero are coming out of a different account. We'll see that in the next page or two. Propane for the garage up there. Vehicle fuel. So the next large on there is 25,000. That's the day-to-day needs. That's just basically a catch-all for any kind of supplies that we need.
When I stopped in up there, you showed me how many replacement blades you had to use for the snow removal. Is it that kind of thing where you're having to replace those every big snowfall?
Even like toilet paper,
Yeah.
paper towels, cleaning
Any
supplies.
kind of chemicals, stuff that we use in the shop and office supplies or anything like that. That number is probably high, but better to budget that high.
Yep.
So the next large one is the road salt. And that is based on 750 tons at $68 a ton, $51,000. Knock on wood, we haven't used our budgeted amount in several years, because we haven't had to use that much salt. Hopefully that's,
So we've already, I'm sorry,
Go
have
ahead.
we already been told this year that is the state price for a ton, $68?
Yes, the only, there was a little question about that. I was talking to him. They filled the garage, they filled the barn at that price. But when they fill it again in the summer, I don't know if I get this price of what we used or if I get, it depends on like when they fill it and when they bill it. I expect them to bill it in May, and I doubt that they'll refill the garage by then. So that should be the correct
Can it
price.
be prepaid or pre-ordered?
No, because we don't know what we're going to use.
Okay.
We just keep track of it and pay them what we use.
We can bring, and for us, it's not a role bringing up the data, we share that salt building with the state.
Okay.
And we buy,
So we
keep
have to
track
buy
of
it from the
loads.
state.
We buy it from the state. They fill it, they actually call when they require it and all that other stuff,
Yeah,
don't they?
they won't even let us receive it. When they call and order salt, they'll send a guy out to make sure he signs the tickets for the trucks and everything. So,
I didn't,
yeah.
Yeah,
And they
Good old state money.
They provide us a loader, which they dropped off the other day to load it with, so we don't use our equipment. Just every event, I will text the director up there how much we used, he keeps track of it, I keep track of it, and they bill us for it.
We had one year though where they had neglected to build.
Yeah. Yeah, they passed it along and nobody picked it up and they didn't bill us for any, so.
Because I think I picked it up on the budget. I'm like, we have this item budgeted and we've never paid anything out of this fund.
Mhm.
So I said something to him and it was like Judy retired, their person at ODOT retired, and it fell through the cracks and we got this whopping bill and, but we had used it, so we paid, but it was.
Yeah, it happened to be the last decent winter we had, we used a lot.
And I'm happy to say they've been billing us with great regularity since.
If we don't use salt, does it deteriorate?
As long as, it's fine in that building, as long as it doesn't get wet.
Good.
So the income for this fund was 160, and you can see the expenditures are 157 for. Onto the road and bridge. This account basically just takes all of our salaries, all of our insurance costs, all the benefit package. See there at the top. We got a county treasury property tax fee, and I got $1,000 in there for tool rental when we do rent something, which isn't very often. Then the very last line, I've got $16,000 to replace one of our zero-turn mowers. We've got one that's, I want to say it's 11 years old. I think I had that before Jeff started. It's at least 11 years old, maybe older. So, and it's become one of those things where you just, every time we use it, we put money into it. That, income for that account was $393. Expenditures of $341. Questions on that one?
Is that the typical time you get out of it? Zero turn, one commercial, zero turns 10 or 12 years?
We've only had, honestly, Russ, I've been here 16 years and we're on our second, third one, so. And the reason we got rid of the first one is because I finally got somebody to listen to me when we're cutting 27, that we need one that'll steer and stay on the hillside safely. So that's why we bought the first one, or the second one, but the fire department's still using the one I had 16 years ago. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you get 10 or 11 years out of a mower. I mean, especially, we don't use them every day like a mowing service, but when we use them, you know, we're on hillsides, we're running down the park and the cemetery, so it gets its use. So the next three funds here, this vehicle license, permissive tax, all the district fund. We typically use these three accounts all for the road contract, paving contracts. I did have to switch some stuff, trying to balance all these out. This road district tax fund. I take all that back now that I just realized we changed this last year. So the first one, license tax fund, it brings in 16,000, and that's what I put down to spend on parts for all the repairs that we do in-house. That's any part for any of the trucks, tractors, equipment, down to oil changes, wiper blades, all that stuff, for the things that we do. In the road district tax fund, we had to move like the pension cost. We do have the crack seal contract coming out of there. That's at 18,000. Got the electric coming there. Culvert supplies. I got 10,000 in here. I don't anticipate being anywhere near that, probably half that. I know Davis Road we're gonna have a decent size one there to take care of before it gets paved, but it's probably inflated a little bit. Road signs, I got 2,000. When we got that grant a few years back, we got every road sign replaced, and they didn't all need replaced, so we still have a stash of road signs in post. We don't have to buy too much. Yeah, I got the uniforms and work boots for the crew. Total expenditure there is 69. Got what the revenue is. Revenue is 76. And then the motor vehicle, it's a tax, we just use that whole account for right-of-way contracts, road contracts. That one brings in 112, and we have 242 coming out of it. So that's the one we're upside down on, just to be able. The road contract this year is going to be a total of 515,000. So we're going to have to use carryover. I'll go over in a minute.
In ARPA, right?
That's including the ARPA.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah. But the next one is the ARPA.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's 273,940, and we're using every dime of it on the road contract. So for a total, we have $1,100,215 in expenditures, which go back to our total revenue, it was $1,027,000.
So we're in a deficit of 72,000.
Yes, yeah, and that's because of the larger than normal contract, which we won't do once we won't get the ARPA money. We're gonna have to cut everything back again as to how much we pay. We're just taking advantage of getting that money. If you look at the balance sheet, the next one, see there's only one that's in the red, and that is because of that contract.
What contract are we talking about?
The paving contract, which I don't know if
That
you
is the
guys-
last one we just went over. Fund 2231.
I don't know if you have any, if you've seen that. And then this is an additional. Those are the roads being paved. And that one will be black.
I would like to.
I may have this in my briefcase. Did you?
I had given you that.
Okay, so yeah, I have that.
When we made the resolution to do it, yeah.
If I could go up on Wendy Knoll and tell my brother-in-law we're paving his street, we're even. Well, no. So how is that? Explain to me again how that's reconciled like next year if we're at $72,000 deficit.
That's part of his carryover. But we're projecting to be in about 609,000.
Okay, so it's coming from the carryover.
Right.
And then you potentially kind of maybe overestimate what your expenditures will be to give you a little breathing room. Okay.
And keep in mind, the two inside the road and the road and bridge are likely going to bring in more revenue than what we have on the books right now. So that's 72. I don't know if it'll be 72,000. I haven't really looked that far ahead, but it's going to take a good chunk of it.
Okay. So it begins to even up.
Also, I don't know if you know the real numbers of when this tax increase hits us, we're gonna bring in a little more money.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
Is that what you were talking about?
yeah, okay. So then, next year's paving contract will get scaled back.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna balance it. If I can balance it, I'm gonna balance it, so I only went over because using the ARPA and knowing ahead about 600,000 to carry over. So I want to get those taken care of. Then the 5-year capital improvement. This was just the capital expenses that she explained earlier. Now I put Hayden Black Road on here. It'll probably be 2026, but I know that's not a capital expense. I just wanted you guys to know that that's coming. So the most likelihood, we won't pave anything next year and we'll save our money to pave following year. Probably won't pave anything in 25 and save our money to pave the Black Road in 26. That makes sense?
It does.
How long is that?
I don't know.
How much was it a mile? There was conversation maybe earlier this summer where you were saying how much it is per mile.
It's right around 190,000 per mile.
Okay.
So I know Black Road's not, I believe it's 2 miles. I'm pretty sure it's not. But the repair costs, you know, I learned that lesson last time, so overestimate that. I think 300 is a pretty fair number. But that, you know, like I said, that's not a capital expense. I just wanted that to be on your radar. The only expense I have on here is to replace that plow truck that we keep spending money on. I'm trying to make it 20 years, 2008. So 2027, I would prefer to order it then. You know, it takes a year to get the things. At least now it does. We'll see when we get there. So that was 225 for that.
How many miles a year do you get on those? I may have asked you that.
That 2008 truck has 37,000 miles. We don't put the mileage on them. It's the salt, and you run them to death when you need them in the wintertime, and then they sit a lot. And that's the nature of the beast there. That you never wear one out mileage wise. It's always rusted out and causing you problems otherwise.
Are they stored inside?
Please,
That's stored inside.
yes, heated garage, yeah.
And the wash bay.
Yeah, so let me give you a little history on that particular truck. I started here in 2007. That truck was on order to 2008. The former superintendent, that was his truck. He drove it for the 4.5 years he was here before he left. He never washed it correctly one time. He just, I don't want to talk bad about anybody. He's just too lazy to wash it right. So, and at the time we didn't have a wash bay, so we did wash them outside. We didn't have a heated pressure washer like we have now. So we do a lot better job keeping them clean, cleaning them up after the event. And it's going to show this 2014 truck's going to be in a lot better shape when it's 20 years old than this one is. So. Anything, nothing on the capital. That's all I have except for the personnel, which according to your stuff here.
Back to executive session.
Any questions for Paul before we move on to the capital expenditures that we're going to executive session for? Okay, move to the adoption of motion number 23-159 to retire to executive session to discuss the employment, promotion, compensation of a public employee in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, section 121.22G1. And the time is 5:30. I need a second.
Second?
Discussion. Roll call.
Trustee McGurran.
Yes?
Trustee Blower.
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?